Hi, I am really glad that you're here. You know, in a world that's largely based on social media appearance and other meaningless things, it's really rare to hear people speak from an unfiltered, genuine, heartfelt place. I'm your host, Lacey Hartzell, and This is Temporary is a safe, casual, non judgmental space for you to hear from other people's experiences with their mental health. And through this, I hope you can see that all of our voices are powerful enough to help other people feel seen and heard and validated. Because even when you feel like it, you're not alone.
Are you afraid of what's next? Me too, me too. You've seen the best.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to This is Temporary podcast. I am your host, Lacey Hartzell. My pronouns are she, her, and today we have with us Sam.
I thought you said you were gonna throw it at me. I was ready. I was about to take over.
Tell us your name, fellow.
Well, all right. The name is Sam Brooks, and I am a he, him, and I'm a multi-hyphenate creator, actor, director, and fun fact, I'm a certified life coach.
That's right.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. What was that like?
I took an online course, so it was actually very easy. I mean, I studied kinesiology in college, so a lot of like the nutritional aspect and the breakdowns of like what neurotransmitters things affect and like the physiology of things was easy for me. It's more about how to build the business, how to go about what's your niche, what's your why for whatever it is you want to help people. And then I think getting over the barriers, like who would want to hire a 28-year-old kid to tell them about life? It's like, hey, you're 54, I'm 28, but trust me, I've seen some shit. Let me tell you about life.
Well,
but yeah, go ahead.
No. I think it's cool. I mean, it goes back to passion, I think, of like you are a very passionate person. And I think a lot of life coaches are the type of people who help people connect to their passions.
I would agree with that. Thank you.
It's whole body. It's mind, body, spirit. And you're someone I've always known to be fully aware of the importance of integrating your mind and your body and spirit.
Well, I have to. It's like a must.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think personal development is a big area where I like. And for me, mostly it's getting coffee or tea with somebody, and then holding the space, and then all of a sudden we're in a deep. I was crying outside of a coffee shop with a woman I've met once, like twice actually.
Yeah.
And she is a creative as well, an artist, and I saw her and I was like, Megan, what's up? And she told me, she's like, oh, I've been through the ringer this weekend. I was like, you got time? Let's sit down. And so we sat down and we're both I was going through something and it was perfectly parallel. And so,
it always is.
And we both like put on our sunglasses because we're outside and the courtyard's full and we're just tears are falling from under our sunglasses. Beautiful. Like that kind of thing. I think what it really taught me was how to ask the right questions, how to guide someone with the right questions so that they can figure out the answers to their own questions.
I love that you said that because I feel like it's always about even the best spiritual guides literally just teach you how to connect with your inner guide.
You have to. I can't.
How do you listen to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Have you always been so connected to your emotional life?
Well, I think in a household, I was born and raised in a very interesting household. I'm already fidgeting, but my parents argued. I think
I handed him an amethyst. It helps too.
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, this is nice. This is real nice.
So I did when I was in trauma therapy. They would always say, like, Lacey, what crystal do you have today?
What are you clacking with those nails?
Smoothing them out even more because that's what I held on to as I talked.
I like this one too. It's got a sweet design.
Oh,
Chevy.
Yeah. Anyway,
okay.
Sorry.
Let's loop it back. So, yeah, gang. All right. Tonight at 6, Sam talks about his family trauma. So I was, I was too young to understand. But my parents would have some arguments, and my dad was very distant emotionally, and my mom is struggling with alcoholism, and like something she struggled with in her adult life because she didn't really drink growing up, from my understanding. So like when she started becoming an adult, she started, and it kind of just hit her. I don't think she ever really knew that she would have an addiction to alcohol. And it's something I never understood growing up until I took a class in college, abnormal psychology. And I remember like calling her and she'd be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," all these things. And but so you have two parents that are kind of distant, but at the same time, it would be such a mix of like all inclusive and then distant, and it was never really like a balanced
Did it
kind of.
feel avoidant?
I think I'm too young to really give you an answer. I was too,
Okay, sure, sure, sure.
I don't really know how I felt because I was outside. It was just
Yeah.
like I don't want to be here, so I'm gonna
Oh.
go climb this tree, and
Okay.
you
A
know,
kinetic coper.
yeah, I was
Same.
blasting off. I was like, what is that, dissociation?
Well, yeah, no, no, no. It's the we cope with things through physical activity.
Oh, big time.
It's like
Yeah.
for me, if I'm really spiraling, I'm like I don't need to think. I need to walk,
Oh
or
yeah.
I need to clean. I need to skate. I need to do something that's gonna get me in my body to cope with the overwhelming emotional experience that I don't know how to process right now.
That's so real.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm going through a lot personally, as you know a little bit about the
Mhm.
stuff, and yeah, and it's such. I wake up with so much energy, and thank God I have like a heavyweight punching bag in my garage,
Oh, nice.
or
So is
else
that your morning routine?
Oh yeah, I've been doing 2 days because I have so
Wow.
much energy,
Yeah.
and I don't know. It's like trying to capture lightning in a bottle.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm just like in the morning and then throughout the day, like multiple sessions of like breathing meditation. Because if I don't want to catch myself in these patterns of reminiscing or what ifing the past
Sure.
and
Fixating.
fixating on things that are out of my control. It's like you have done everything that is in your control. Just chill
Yeah.
and process and live and
Be present.
you be present
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
relax, bro. But at the same time, yeah. So that's real for me. And like the family stuff, I forgot what we were even talking about that brought me back to that. But it was
You're saying in college you had a conversation with your mom from an abnormal psych class.
yeah, that was something. There was something before that though. It was like the whole reason I even mentioned that. I think I don't know what we were even talking
Is it the
about.
back and forth of having some normalcy and then distance at times? That's kind of emotionally
The
confusing.
hell were we talking about? Anyways, I think there's some reasoning to what I was saying. I just can't think of it right now,
Hey,
to
it'll
be
come up when
honest.
it's supposed to.
Yeah, we were talking
Yeah.
about something beautiful at the beginning.
This is still beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
When I say the term mental health, what comes to mind for you and your personal experience?
Great question. That's a really good question. I think for me, it's I just think of my mom
Okay.
and and it runs. There's some mental health stuff in the family
Yeah.
that I've heard about from. No.
It's okay. You know what? We are like crystals. We are tough and resilient. But it's interesting you say it like that because oftentimes when it comes to mental health, especially up until, I mean, I like that stigma gets a little bit, less and less each year. I see people having more awareness, more, compassion and understanding and healthier connotations around the language we use regarding it. But oftentimes people jump to an assumption when talking about mental health that you have to have some diagnosis. You have to have, that's from the DSM-5. It's like, for me, I'm, diagnosed bipolar. People who are diagnosed with, the disease of alcoholism, or, they fill in the blank. But it's interesting because we all have our own emotional and mental health as individuals to work on personally, apart from any diagnosis. You don't have to have a diagnosis to have mental health struggles, right?
Right. Well, when you say mental health, I just think of it as an overall. It's like how is your mental? What's the health of your
Sure.
mental?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Break
and
it
it's like
down.
if someone's like, "How's your mental health?" It's
Yeah.
like
Do you feel stable,
some
for
some
instance?
days it
Or
might be a little loose.
yeah, yeah.
Some days it's gonna be
In this
solid,
world,
and
that's normal.
yeah. How many like stimuli are out there? Is that right? Stimuli,
Sure.
plural of stimulus.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's like how many, like just bombarding you from your
Yes.
phone, from
Yeah.
external
Yeah.
stimulus every day. And it's like, yeah, I don't think mental health has to be under a category of, or this definition
Sure.
of a disorder, if you will.
Right. Right.
Um,
Well, it exceeds that.
yeah.
You know, it applies to all of us. I guess is my point.
Hmm.
But I do like that the way that your answer was. You're such a connective. You connect with people so well, and that's the way that you live your life. You know, and I think that's how we all. I think are designed to be. I think we're here for connection. But it was cool that your answer was about connection, about the people in your life that it makes you think about.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Sorry, I think I just remembered. We were talking about the
Hey.
life coaching stuff and like
Yeah.
what brought me into that.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, so from living in that household, from experiencing like everything that I've experienced, I was so angry for so long and was always asking myself the questions, like, and feeling like I was second to an addiction and never was worthy, and was like, are we not good enough for you? Like all these things.
Oh yeah.
Now processing all of it, and just continuing to just build my understanding for just what I'm going through and what my mom's going through, my parents went through. And it's become one of these things where it's like, wow, my mom is in my life to teach me on a deep, deep level compassion, on a deep, deep level patience, on a deep level unconditional love.
Yeah.
And it's like these things aren't hindrances to our family. These things are lessons for the individual souls that are under the confines of what our family is. You know, this, you know, we were all here to teach each other.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know to the full extent of what I've taught my mom and what I've taught my dad by being me and what they've been through. I was like, oh, this is unfair, like all these things. But it's actually like, wow, you know, each individual parent has taught me so much, like my father, resilience, and so much about what it means to stand up for your family and what you have to do in order, like responsibility, like a deep level of responsibility, accepting and taking responsibility for where you're at in life and the choices you've made. And all these beautiful things. And I think that's what really had an interest in me taking the health route through college, through kinesiology, and wanting to be in the health field, and also to have that interest as when I'm acting in like the peak of my career, I'm like, I want to do a life coaching, like a year program to get like my life coaching stuff, because it's just always there. It's always like, how can I ask the right questions and try to like, I think this like feeling of helping people really stems from like my family dynamic. It's like I think there's honestly a part of me, it's like, God, I really wish I could have been like the savior, I guess, or like this act of heroism. It's like I wish I could have kept them together and saved like everybody, you know, like one of
And you
those.
have such a healthy view on having a healing and a healer's mentality as opposed to a savior's. You know what
Well,
I mean?
that's
The
something
savior
that's
involves
taken a long time.
control. Yeah, of course,
Hmm.
and that's part of your lesson.
Right.
But I love that you pointed out even our perceived shortcomings, you know, in the way that society has taught us to identify and label ourselves and
Hmm.
look at our lives and be like, well, that's where you fucked up. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But like, that's all part of the plan.
Hmm.
That's all part of the purpose. Like, we have to fall down. There are metaphors and lessons all around us from our childhood on where it's like,
Hmm.
hi, do you remember learning how to walk? Well, probably not. You were so young. But let me remind you, you fell so many fucking times. You know, and it's just like you scraped up your knee. But you know what? You were designed to learn how to do that, and you did it. You got there when you were supposed to, just on time for your track, you know?
Hmm.
And it's just cool that the wise mind, the enlightened soul, you know, that's often been a person who's been through a lot to learn this and gain this insight, knows that, like we said before we started this, we feel like we both have learned over the past year, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And so we step out of a victim mentality and a judging in a negative sense mentality of looking at others and being like, wow, you ruined my life, you did that, so screw you for hurting me there. Instead, we see you were a lesson for me,
Hmm.
and I thank you. You know, it's like, and also, I think the tough human part of that is understanding that like you can't rush that process of growth and grieving and healing. It's like when I got divorced, it took me years to reach a place of peace and love and compassion for that person. And it was natural. You know, I couldn't speed that up. You know, I just had to feel it all. And I had to face the shadowy parts of me that were like really ugly, you know, and that's okay. There's no shame in it. We're all human. We all
Right.
have these sides that are like, you know, just wanting to spit at people with our, but it's all pain. You know, that anger is just all the emotions arriving at the final emotion of anger and going.
It's like what William, our acting coach
Yeah.
at the Fourth Wall, says. Anger is unexpressed pain. You know, and
Exactly.
that's something that's
But the
deeply
insight
rooted in
that you
truth.
have now on your family, I mean, it's just beautiful the way that you worded that. When you're saying it, I was like that's the goal, is for us to be able to look at ourselves and each other, especially the people closest to us, because it's always the people closest to us that we have hurt the most and have hurt us the most.
Amen.
You know, because you see the most of them, and most of the time it's, you know, there's no malintent. It's just that's what happens as we heal. We have these moments where our inner childs are just like, our inner children are just lashing out, and we look back
Definitely.
and we're like, oh shit. And it's that humility of being able to go, I'm going to continue to mess up along my healing journey, but how cool that I'm learning the language to like have grace for myself and others as I see what's happening here, you know, as opposed to just like personalizing everything.
Yeah.
I still struggle with that in new environments.
For sure.
I really struggle with that.
I mean, it's always there. Like for me, I guess I can't say for everybody. For me, it's always been there, no matter how evolved I get in processing it. But it's just like the sitting in that awareness where it's like doesn't have the or the weight on it. And there's a lot more levity to it by sitting in awareness, and you're like, yeah, oh man, I do feel this way. Why? Okay, interesting. How can I get to the bottom of this? Where am I storing this? How can I shake it out? How can I let it go? And sometimes, it will take years.
And you have to accept it.
You have to.
Yeah.
And like sitting in it, learning to sit in it has been a huge lesson. Like growing up, my parents, slow down, so many times. And we're like, slow down. You know, and it's like that Vienna song, Billy Joel. It's like, you know, you can't be everything you want to be before your time. Slow down, you crazy child.
Yeah.
And it's still something where it's like, just sit. What was it? Be still and know? Yeah, just sit in it. Fucking feel it. Let it like course through your veins, cry, laugh, scream, you know, just feel that shit. Because I think that's part of the beauty of being back on earth and being human. Is like the emotions, the duality, joy, pain, like, you know, all the everything. You get to experience this. And that's like the most beautiful, raw, human, you know, experience. Do you believe that we, going back to the Soul's Purpose book, do you believe that we plan, like your soul family, you're up in heaven, or you're up in the waiting room, I guess, about like planning out your, and it's you, your soul family, could be your parents, could be like us, you know, exactly. Yeah, it's just you and planning this beautifully crafted birth vision, you know, but you know, of course, a lot of the times along the way, like in the birth canal, or you know, as you were young, we forget, you know, what we envisioned, and something, you know, we find our way.
Sure.
Do you believe in that? Do you believe that?
I love spiritual questions, because I'm always, and I hope I always will be evolving and growing and expanding my capacity to believe and wonder. You know what I mean? With amazement and an open mind. But I really started getting into like mediumship and psychic healing and energetic healing and just spiritualism in general. And what makes sense to me is like soul contracts of this idea. And again, at the end of the day, it's kind of what we were saying with a story I was like a film I was conceptualizing of. At the end of the day, it doesn't actually exactly matter what it actually was. What matters is the meaning you gave to it and your acceptance of what you chose to believe about it.
Perspective.
You know, that's where, exactly. Your perception shapes your reality. So for me, I read something about soul contracts and about how, and this just gives me a lot more peace and acceptance and trust in the now and in what has happened to me in my life and in what will happen to me that is unknown to me right now. Is this idea that I am allowed to be afraid and be human of what's ahead because I don't know what it is. But what I am not allowed to doubt is myself because I have been equipped and born to handle the life that I will lead. So, in that soul contract spiritualism, for me, that, and I see that as before I was born, I knew that I was going to be bipolar. I knew that I was going to get divorced at a young age. I knew that I was going to struggle with religion and conformity and socialization that rejected my nature. I knew that I was going to have a really tough family dynamic and some other like sexual trauma that would really, really challenge me and that I would really struggle with rejection. Like there were certain things that now I see, oh, this is like, I don't, when I get depressed, because that's part of my diagnosis, I do struggle with depression, but now I have this spiritual view on it that really helps me find more meaning, which helps me to not linger as long in depression or linger as low. And I have other things that help as well. It's a work in progress of mind, body, and soul. But it helps me to go, okay, so even in this depression, there's a purpose. I'm learning a lesson here.
Yeah.
And there's meaning to this. And if there's meaning, I can get through something and behind something with meaning and purpose in my pain. And it helps alleviate the suffering side of it, whereas it's just pain that I know is temporary. I can count on that, and I can endure it because I was built to. So yeah, I definitely think there's this like romanticism with that idea of like, oh, this is exactly the life I was supposed to live and I can't go wrong. And none of this is a mistake. Like I haven't messed up because I've learned from it all. It's a win or it's a learn. It's a lesson.
That's beautiful. Honestly, that was very,
right? What
very
about
beautiful.
You brought the question up.
Right? No. Same. But a little.
We've always been. But again,
But a little, but it's like more. Exactly. Well said. It's like I'm sitting here with my soul family, angels, archangels, spirit guides. I believe me and my mom have spent many lifetimes together, and we sat down and I was like,
I feel like we've talked about this. I love this.
Yeah, I know
different dynamics to help each other throughout these lives. Yeah.
I've been working a lot with some energy workers, one specifically who I love, and we've done a lot of past life regressions and a lot of work in this lifetime kind of stuff. But I haven't asked her about my mom and I's lifetimes, but I do think we've spent a lot. And I think her and I were up there, and a part of like the process was like, hey, you're going to go down there. You're going to have this experience. You're going to plan your life, but I'm going to come in at this moment in your life. And you're going to be an alcoholic, and I'm going to be your son, and we're going to go through hell and high water together. But we're going to these are the things that we need. Just like you said, I'm planning these pivotal cornerstones, pillars, obstacles, challenges, beautiful things, everything in between in my life, because these are what I need to evolve my soul to the next level.
Yeah. Refined by the fires.
Yeah.
Drink your tea, darling.
So much truth was spoken.
But I love that I don't know, we were talking before this as well about how people are mirrors for your growth, for where you are. And you look around yourself, and there's that saying that like the 5 people around you are a reflection of you in that moment, the 5 people closest to you, right? So it's like you look at the people that even if it's a random stranger that's brought into your life, you can still look at that instance and be like, what in them affected me and
100%. 100%.
And it's just, or it's alignment. It's just like, oh, that conversation, or you were just singing the same song or reading the same book or having the same ideas. And it's like, that's called the law of attraction, whatever it is, synchronicities. But it's like, we're all connected.
Right. It's being in tune with that. You start to notice, or you're sitting there. So you go, you take yourself on dates and stuff, right? Yeah. You're just by yourself and just doing your thing.
Like all I do.
You're sitting there. Someone, same. I love that shit. You go in there and then do you ever just sit in there, but you don't talk to anybody? You just see if anyone comes up to you. And they do. And then you're like, okay,
this was supposed
well,
to happen.
what am I giving out? Yeah. What's the attraction here? And then sometimes, I'm sure this happens to you too, because you hold great space, and it's like they'll just come up, hey, I'm so and so. So I'm going through some shit, and they just like unleash. You're like, dude, we met like 5 minutes ago, and it's like, but come on,
but you feel
bring,
safe.
yeah,
It's an energetic thing. Yeah, and it's I don't know, it's such a gift, but it's also, I've learned too about myself and boundaries when I'm like knowing yourself, because that's a beautiful side of, yes, this has been the most of my life, where I feel like I'm just, and I play oftentimes that like therapist, unprofessional therapist to a lot of people. And I love it. It's a gift because I go, hey, I have chosen, and it is my joy to sit with you and help, because like it makes me feel better, making you feel better, because I get it, you know? But there's also moments where I realized like I opened myself too much, and I was drained and I was draining, and I was just like, I don't know. Are you someone who innately has good boundaries, or have you had to learn? That's a good one.
Fuck, man. Yeah, boundaries are interesting because yeah, I set my first boundary with my mom in February. It took me close to 28 years.
They're tough, aren't they?
Holy shit.
And they feel wrong at first. They feel
terrible.
So wrong.
Oh my god.
Talk about questioning yourself.
Her face was like, I was just flabbergasted, and you're like, yeah, my boy. But it was necessary, and you know, oh man, boundaries. I have a hard time growing. When I grew up, I always wanted to do something because I didn't want to sit with myself. Didn't want to sit in what I was feeling, especially like my parents' divorce was prolonged. It was weird. And yeah, it was like they lived in the same house because like the 2008 market crash. Dad sold business. Parents were divorced but seeing a therapist. Like it was, but dad was downstairs, mom was upstairs, but they couldn't sell the house for 3 years. So they're living together, divorced for 3. It was weird, super weird. And so I never wanted to be home. So I was like always doing something, always doing something. And I didn't really set any boundaries for myself. I was burning at both ends. And like I got good at balancing that. But yeah, I would burn out. And now it's like, as I think quarantine was a huge awakening of really sitting with me and learning to start like asking, why don't I unconditionally love myself? What is it? Like, what are the things? Like, why don't I like to sit with me? You know, what's going on? It's like, I look in the mirror and I can't even look myself in the eyes a lot of the times. And so like setting these boundaries with myself about like, hey, I need me time. You know, I'm not coming out tonight. You know, I need some me time. I lost a lot of friends. Well, I lost a lot of people that, you know, I used to just go dick around and drink with or like chill with, and
they weren't serving you anymore.
I think they served me in
when they needed to.
Yeah, I still see some of them. So, but like I think the situations, like going out and the situations that we would hang in were no longer serving me. I still love these people, and I see them sporadically. It's not like every weekend. Like
what I've learned is that, and maybe there's a better way to word it that doesn't sound like there's any negative connotation towards anyone, because I don't think it's personal to them.
No,
you know what I mean.
It's
I
not.
think it's all about you at the end of the day. Decisions you make, boundaries you make, are not about anyone else. They're about you. They're about what you're comfortable.
It was that it was that lifestyle was no longer serving me, and I was like, I have to do something. Because I was just like, I don't like
this that you made this transition, because that's great awareness.
For probably like I'm calculating probably like beginning of 2020, like just before quarantine stuff. Beginning of 20, like I was 2019. I was doing StarGirl. I was doing Fear Street. I was doing Indie Pro. I was doing the most. And I was living in Atlanta for like 10 months out of the year. I went to Australia right after. Was there for like a few months, and I was just burning it both. And I had burned through all of my cash pretty much. And I was like, you idiots. And I was like trying to live like this A-lister. Yeah, I was like, yo, it's all good. We're about to blow up, man. You got this, bro. It's like, you know, we can spend money like we're an A-lister, dude. It's all good. No. It's like, I'm like, well, me, but at the same time, I was like, this is great. This was like, I laugh. I was just, it's like so good to look back and just laugh at myself about it. I'm like, you get it out while you're young. Learn that shit early, boy. And I think one of the visions that really stuck with me was it was just a light switch, and it was a positive and a negative, and it was in the middle. And this voice was like, you control. That's your light switch. You control that. And it's like, what do you want to be? Yeah. And it's like, if you ever notice it wherever you like on the negative, it's like, just know that you have the ability to flip it. Wow. And I was just like, really spoke to me. And it really hit me about the boundary thing too, because it's like, I grew up being a people pleaser because I always wanted to please my parents. Yeah. I wanted to, exactly. And I didn't get a lot of that. I mean, I did, but not in the ways I wanted to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you didn't have the vocabulary at that age to even know how to ask for what you need.
Correct.
Most of us that experience that dynamic, no matter what it looked like externally, internally, we become people who really seek to be understood, but often feel misunderstood.
That's real. And I knew growing up, I know like deep down, I was like, my parents loved the shit out of me, but I just felt like I wasn't getting, like I wasn't understood. Yeah. I wasn't understood. I was misunderstood. Like, why doesn't anybody want to play with me? My brother and I were polar opposites. Now we're best friends. But, back then we weren't friends. I was like, no one wants to play with me. I'm just like shooting basketball by myself all the time. It was good. Yeah. So setting boundaries is really important. And also being in a relationship, like a serious one that was like close to a year, and just like learning about, having that beautiful person in front of you be a mirror. And it's like, wow, look at all this shit I didn't even know I had to, like, I was storing inside of me. I was like, oh my God.
Relationships do that.
I was like,
it's
what
tough.
is, I was like, I have some issues.
Yeah, you want to grow, get in a relationship.
Yeah, oh my goodness. And it's like, one of those where it's like both of us, are mirrors for each other. And it's like, we're working through things together. Sometimes, a lot of times it's like, oh, we gotta, I gotta take some time.
Boundaries.
For sure. And that's when like, and it was like, I went until I get called out, where it's like, I need space. And I would like be not I wasn't fully understanding the boundary.
Sure.
And it would be like, hey, and I was like, oh my God, I had no idea I was doing this. And then I was thinking about it, it's like, I do that. I'm like, holy shit, I'm not respecting boundaries. What? And it's like, what does this mean? And then
intentionally do that.
No.
That's how we learn. Honey, you have to have moments of awareness, and sometimes they're humbling.
Very much so. But it also was a great teacher, and like, oh my gosh. So now it's like, okay, now I'm learning from me not appreciating, or like unknown, subconsciously stepping over a boundary. Now it's teaching me, okay, consciously helping me, like, what does a boundary mean? How do you set one? How do you stick with it? How do you not break your boundaries? What's a healthy boundary? What's like,
and boundaries with yourself.
Right, exactly. And like, it's okay to set a boundary with someone.
Right. It's healthy.
Yeah.
Because coming from our, people pleasing background of wanting to be loved, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be cool, liked, validated, everything. It's like we thought that we would be rejected if we don't do what people want from us and give them what they want, the version of us that they want, etc. But the truth is, it's like, we could be, well, not only are we dishonoring ourselves by not putting down boundaries that honor what we need, but we also step into this enabling. And that often is the
well said.
Is the codependent symptom of one of them, of being, coming from an alcoholic dynamic. I know with my dad and our family's codependent dynamic is like, there was so much enmeshment and enabling going on, of like, I was afraid to upset someone, but maybe they needed to be upset. Maybe, first of all, we're only responsible for our own feelings and behaviors, not anyone else's. And that's hard to believe when that was the opposite of what I thought growing up. My understanding of the world was that I am responsible. And that if someone's upset, it's my fault. Everything's my fault, right? But learning to go, I trust, and stepping out of the savior complex of thinking, I know what's best, I can help you, I can save you, I see what you need for help, and I
have the ability to help you. I'm gonna wake you up.
Going,
and it's like, no,
I'm gonna do me and speak my boundary and speak my piece, but I'm gonna give you the freedom as a human being react however you need to. And I'm going to know that that's not personal to me, you know, and it does feel foreign and sticky and hurtful and scary at first, but
Yeah.
then the more we experience it, the more we go, we got through that. And you, what I love is I have realized, oh man, it's wild that it's taken me this long, but at the same time, I'm like, right on time, sis.
You're like, what,
You
28?
know, I'm 29.
I'm 29?
Where
This long. You
it's
got like
like
twice your years
I
left.
work really hard on this kind of stuff. It's like all I do.
Same.
But again,
low key, same.
There's mind stuff. There's conceptually, I've been reading about this stuff for years, but in my interpersonal existence in life, I've been experiencing it in my heart and in my body over the past couple of years, finally, to claim it for myself and understand it fully. And it's like, I have had true, pure connection and intimacy with so many relationships. I don't just mean romantic,
Right.
I mean in life in general, because I've started to put down boundaries. And I've started, when you put a boundary down, not only is it, good for you, and that, but it's also on a deep level, I've learned, it sends that message to yourself of how I feel matters. What I think, what I believe matters, even if no one understands it. Because some lies that I accepted and was taught growing up, that were embedded into my thought patterns, was that, Lacey, you are difficult. Lacey, you are dramatic. Lacey, you are a drama queen, a hypochondriac. You just make everything really tough for people. And so what I did in return was, part of the people pleasing, part of everything was like, I'm going to make myself small. I'm going to make myself pleasant. I'm going to make myself palatable for everyone, which is not me. Who I'm meant to be. I'm very loud in your face and ridiculous and silly and goofy I am culturally divergent. You know what I mean? I'm just like, a lot of, at least in Nashville, a lot about me is like, I don't necessarily, Nashville's a little more, colorful now. But all that to say, our existence and our purpose is not to be pleasant. It's not to be palpable. It's not to be, accepted by someone else. It's to be enjoyed by myself and enjoyed by the people that align with me,
Right.
Make harmony with who I already am and when I'm in my integrity. You know what I mean? So I like that boundaries are this affirmation to yourself that goes like, oh, because I love myself, because I love you, I'm going to do this. Because when I'm in alignment with myself, I'm in alignment with the universe. I'm in alignment with you in front of me,
Yeah.
It's this flipped perspective that is so beyond what I was taught. It's just like,
and that's what hit. I had a buddy set a boundary the other day, and I was like, I appreciate you.
yes,
I appreciate you setting a boundary, because it's like, that shows me you love me, and that shows me you love yourself enough to set this boundary. And it's like, I respect that. I fucking love you for it. Thank you.
I want to stay in a relationship with you. Therefore, I will put this boundary down so that we don't fizzle each other out. And so many people dwindle off because they go, I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
I can't deal with that person. I can't deal with that energy. And they never even implied a boundary at all because they didn't have the vocabulary for it. And I get that. I've been there way too many times. I've lost so many heated dynamics because it was like neither one of us knew how to speak our needs, and we weren't. And it was just resentment.
And communication is so important to me as the Gemini, if you will, like whatever.
Your birthday's in 2 days,
right? Yeah.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. The big 2-8. I want to go back on something you said, which is a lesson I'm learning on a deeper level now, and it's learning to separate what is yours and what is not. And that's something that's energetically. It's something that's taken me a while to understand and to grasp and embody. And so when it's like, especially someone you love, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna stick with my integrity, and I'm going to either set a boundary, I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to be blunt. I'm not here to be pleasurable or like, here's my truth. I will speak it. And it goes back to like what I can control and what I cannot. I can control in this moment, like learning to just focus. It's like, I can't always control what goes on in my life, but I can control how I react to what goes on.
Yes.
And in this moment, it's like, I have control of what I am, like my integrity. And it's like I will stick to that. But what I cannot control is how they will feel.
Yep.
And I have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
No matter the result, I have to be okay with that because that's theirs. And if it's something where it's a lot coming back at you, and say, well, okay, take it in, but don't hold that. That's not yours.
Yeah.
That's not, listen to them, respect it, feel it, understand it, but don't hold it because it's not yours.
Yeah.
And that's something that's taken me a long time.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'll be doing it forever.
For sure. It's never like it's never like, oh, I mastered it now, and I'm like,
that's the part of this whole life thing.
which
It's
is
like,
the best part.
it's gonna be painful. It's meant to be. Now, I don't think we necessarily have to remain in suffering. I think that's more the mental. It's the ego story, like you were just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you're coming at me with a lot of that, I can go, okay, I know that this is yours, but the ego story can go, what if I, and you start questioning.
It's that parasitic mind, you know?
Because oh man, someone said this earlier, and I went, oh, that's the truth. They're like, if someone comes at you with something and say they're just like, having, they're attacking you and they're calling you names and the things that resonate, if they do, it's like if they, light you up emotionally, it's because there's a part of you that believes what they're saying to you. And then you got to check yourself and go, what part of me thinks that I am a bad daughter? What part of me thinks that I am wishy-washy and not dependable? And it goes back to the story you tell yourself, because you wouldn't have been activated by that attack from that person. You wouldn't have gotten defensive if there wasn't a part of you that believed their words.
Right.
And so it's our work, even then, in a moment that's is like it's stuff like that, where you go, what ego story am I telling myself, or am I holding on to? And I had a breakthrough like that, where it was the difficult one. I hadn't realized how much the term "you're so difficult" had like really. And my dad had gotten it from his family. Stop talking, stop being difficult, stop being annoying, stop being whatever. And so I got a lot of that from him, because that's what he got. And it was just, I didn't realize that in my adult life, I was just doing anything subconsciously, moving through my days to not be a nuisance, to not be difficult. And then I started, my higher self went, Lacey, you're not difficult. You're a human being who's allowed to be exactly who you were created to be. And you know what? Yeah, you're bipolar and you are incredibly emotional. I'm a Pisces. I'm super creative and extreme, but I am meant to be that way. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. If I'm in my own, when I lived in Paris alone, I finally saw, oh, I can enjoy and embrace and accept and motherfucking celebrate exactly how I innately am. I don't have to apologize. I apologize so much. For the past decade, probably not life, but consciously the past decade, where I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm such an idiot. There's that kind of stuff where it's just like, I wasn't even thinking, it just came out of my mouth. It was like I'd say something, apologizing for my existence. Of course, in my safe spaces, it was different, where, my theater kids or whatever, you're just like, oh, I can be weird with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was like
no
your true self.
Yeah.
Your true self coming out.
But it's like integrity is being the same integrated internally and externally version of yourself, no matter who you're around. Correct. Right? And it's just tough, because it's nature versus culture.
Right. Yeah. And that's all your dad knew. And that's
and he has
not
such a beautiful heart.
Yeah, he's a great person. Yeah. And I know her dad, but he's a very nice guy.
He's working on his healing. All I care about, there's so many things I care about. All I really,
just only one thing.
But what I love to see, what's my favorite, the most attractive quality in a person, is to see that they are just working on themselves, working on their self-awareness. And I think next to that, and this goes back to like the redemptive side of kids with history similar to ours, where it's like, felt misunderstood and I became this little people pleaser and everything. I just felt rejected. Okay, yes, there's a lot there to unpack. There's a lot there to heal. However, those people are normally very inclusive people. I've learned, because we know how it feels to be left out. We know how it feels to be overlooked. We know how it feels to not be seen and to be cared for. And so we're the first people to go, I see you. I care about you. Your voice matters. You're not alone, because we know how it feels, right? So I just think that talking back on the way that we look at life, and I don't know, I think people are so quick with stigma to be like, oh, she's got this going on. Oh, careful of her. She's this, she's that. You know. And I'm like, it hurts because I know that when people say stuff, this was a big revelation for me over the pandemic. When people say stuff and make comments, it's just a reflection of their language towards themselves, towards themselves. But it also, I think it's shaping it to go, okay, so if that's what that person deals with, what else can it reveal about them that's not negative? That's positive.
Right.
They're super sensitive. We need sensitive people in this world.
For sure.
We need people that are
We need
in
more of
tune. Yeah, we need people that are emotionally engaged with the world and with humanity, because we create change and we go, hey, there's something wrong here, and I'm not going to let us bulldoze through this. My feelings are telling me something's off. Let's address it.
Yeah.
You
You got to bulldoze through the stigma, because it's really so much of a stigma.
Have you felt affected by stigma in your life personally? Like the mental health stigma? As a guy even,
I think when I was a kid, I was all over the place. I was left, right, up, down, round and round circles. I was doing like cartwheels in class.
Yeah.
And then I got sent to SSI or ISS or whatever it was called for doing a cartwheel in class. But he was throwing a dance party. It's like, bro, I'm just breaking down. Like, can't you ever heard of breakdancing?
You can't throw a dance party and not expect me to breakdance.
I'm about to cartwheel on this bitch. And yeah, it was actually the best day of elementary school I ever had. Because I just did all my work anyways. But yes, very much so. My parents wanted, an example was that rant. My parents wanted to put me, all my teachers, like, he needs to be on medication. And as a young kid, I had a sharp tongue. I made a babysitter quit once. I was like 4 or 5 years old. I blacked out. I don't know. But she was outside when my parents got home, and just crying on our porch swing. She's like, I'm never working for your kids again. Like, your son's like the devil, basically. And so like I was taking no bullshit, no prisoners as a kid.
Did you embody that though? That experience, was that traumatizing for you, where you grew up kind of feeling like I'm looked at as like the troublemaker?
Oh, for sure. Wow. Yeah, I got caught with everything.
Wow.
And so I was like, so when my teacher said that to my parents, I overheard it. I overheard my parents talking about it. I remember barging in. I'm like, you're going to put your son on medication because you don't like who I am? Wow. Just like wrecked them. And they're like, I just remember them being like, oh, fuck, what do we do? It's like our little kids being like, how dare you consider.
Your gut knew at that
It's
age.
like, you're going to put me on medication to change.
Don't change me.
Yeah, you don't like who I am, your own son. I was just ripping them. And
that talk about tough dynamics and emotional immaturity and codependency and all the issues that our parents didn't have the language really, or not as much access to this language that we have now. But it's like, so often there are scenarios just like this where it's and I had so many in my life where, because they didn't know how to emotionally cope with us, they just shut us down or medicated us, or just like made us the problem. You know what I mean? A problem to be solved, rather than a human being to be enjoyed and embraced and accepted as we are.
Right. For a long time, I blamed myself for my parents' divorce, because I was like, it's on me, because I was such a shit. Wow. Like, I was such a shit because
You carried that?
Oh, for probably till like this past year, like a year and a half. I did a lot of work like with the energy stuff.
That's tough.
And it was like I was rambunctious. I was rebellious. I was rebelling to get attention, I think. And and no one knew what to do with me. They're like,
Well, you probably didn't have the vocabulary, to know, to express what you needed.
Yeah, I don't think yeah, exactly. My grandmother always says, like, I came out of the womb and split hell wide open. So it's just, I could climb out of my crib before I could walk. Like, my mom was like, I would test her. There was a story. She was like, don't sip out of that sippy cup. And I was like 3, and my brother was in the room, and he was like, don't do it. And I just kept getting it closer. And she was like, I'm going to count to 3. And she was like, 3, 2. And my brother just like walks out of the room. And then I just fucking started chugging that shit. And I knew what was coming, spankings. And I was like,
But the thing is, oftentimes that's still attention.
Well, for sure.
At that young of an age, especially, there's always a subconscious, like, it's like, it doesn't matter what kind of attention, it's attention. I have your attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I like that the older we get, And the more like judgment and social conditioning and shame we take away from the way we look at ourselves and
Hmm.
just witness what we do, like our light and our dark and everything. I love the ability to look at like first of all redefining the term sadism, of like it's not just some like sexual kink that's about giving pain to people and extracting, seeing that you've caused someone pain. It's in general just seeing that you've affected someone. You've had an effect. It's about attention. It's about knowing you've been sensed by someone. And it's like, we're all like that. I mean, some of us more than others. Me, actors, we're very much like that. You know what I mean? I want to have an effect on you. I want to have an emotional or, sensory, whatever it is. But it's like, it's all about hearing your story. It's like from a earlier age. And even just like, okay, I'm taking a turn, but
Turn it
I'm
up.
admiring just I love you and respect you as a person, as a whole
Likewise.
person. Thanks. Always have, and
Exactly.
we've
Yeah.
helped each other grow. I think in a lot of ways, seeing
Hmm.
the parts we played in each other's lives, and it's cool to see just like who you've always been. You've always been someone, as far as I've known you, that is in your own integrity. You know yourself. You put yourself out there. You're very bold. And it's led you to the success you've had in your career, and the connections you've had in your life. Because, like, were you? Do you think you can accredit that to who you've kind of always been? To
Yeah,
you know what I
I've
mean?
always been, like a bold motherfucker. I was born May 25th is the day of the bolt. Like that's
Okay.
what it. And as a kid in elementary school, I was the kid that was like everyone wanted to go home with me. Like not like that, but like like go home and like play and
Hang
like
out.
hang
You were
out.
cool. You were fun.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was just like embodying the spirit. But at school, I was nice and funny, and I mean, it's always like that. But this was like pre-divorce. I was charismatic, funny. I cared about everyone. Like I
Yeah.
wanted everyone to be involved. I remember like this kid brought strawberry shortcakes, and he was like going to surprise the class, and I went over because I knew what he was doing, but I scuffed dirt in his shortcakes. I felt terrible, so I ran him over, and I was like, "Okay, guys, so I basically messed these up, but he's worked really hard on them, and I know you don't want them, so I'm going to go run these out into the woods." And I'm gonna run them back, and you're gonna say they were so delicious you already ate them, so he feels good. Like all the, but the fucking part is, where our next location, where we're walking, they were right there next to the trail. I put them right next to
You're
the
like,
trail. He's like, "Those are my."
you're like, and we loved them. Oh
I was
no.
just trying to make you feel good.
Lesson learned.
But at home, I was destined to cause some shit. I was
Yeah.
like always like, if mom said no, "Hey, Dad, have you asked your mom?" "Yeah, she said it was cool." And she's like, "All right, cool." And then he would be like, like I was like such a shitty manipulator. Like I was just doing everything to survive and
Yeah.
get exactly what I wanted, because I
Yeah.
knew it was like the dark side and school was the light side. Home,
Yeah.
dark; school, light.
Sure. That
And
makes
at
sense.
and at home, it's like I knew exactly what buttons to push. I knew everything, and like I could get whatever I wanted, or like
Yeah.
at least learn that. And even throughout like going into high school, like
Yeah.
navigating this high school realm, it was like I know how to survive.
Yeah.
I know who to, and then it was just like I knew everyone, every
Yeah.
clique, at least one person from every clique, didn't matter. I could go from a lunch to the theater kids, be
Yeah.
like, Figaro, Figaro, like, peace out, yo. And they're like, hit up the basketball squad, then go up and like,
Yeah.
see like the nerd kids or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. I just loved them, just loved people
Yeah.
and learning to like understand people. I think it came from like the house of like learning to understand how to like
Well, I was gonna say it.
master these people's.
Master you. Learning how to master yourself in a sense, because it goes back to what you were saying about you went to where you saw the visual of the switch of the plus and the
Mhm.
minus, positive and the negative, and like how you throughout your life, like again, no shame, no regrets. There's only lessons learned and no mistakes. But it's cool to see that like your natural inclinations that are extreme, you've learned to harness them for your good, to use them in a way that brings connection, that brings healing, that brings abundance and career opportunities. And you know what I mean? It's like,
Thank you very
yeah.
much, and I received that. I received that. But in the beginning, in the dawn of Sam, no, it was those skills were mastered by using people. I feel like in a way,
Okay.
manipulating
we all
situations and people to get what I want,
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted,
Yeah.
you know. And it was just like,
even empathy can be fully manipulated.
right.
I
And
mean?
I was like, man, this shit's easy. And which is like the dark side, like exploring that dark realm
dark
of
side
that,
yourself. Yeah.
to then have this understanding where it's like, that's wrong, you know. Like, that's not who I want to be, you know. That's not who my little kid was. My kid just wanted to love, and I got a lot of love to give, and I just want to be loved, and I wanted to give love.
And let people show up as they are,
Yeah.
rather than trying to get a result.
Yeah, exactly. As a kid, I accepted everybody just for who they are. Like, I don't care. I didn't care what you did, who you were, what your quirks were. If you had a twitch, I don't care. Like, I just thought you were cool. I thought people were interesting, and let's like kick the soccer ball out.
In a very naturally beautiful way.
I would hope so.
You do. Yeah. You do, and you teach others to do the same. You do.
I appreciate that.
You teach me to do that. So just you being you, like you said, it's cool to see. Like, oftentimes we never see the effect or know the effect we have on others, but you do. So as we wrap up, tell us where you are now. You're creating a podcast. You, let's see what's going on with you right now.
I'm in a house. No. So, right now, I do have we're in Paris.
I took a picture of Paris when I lived there, and it's a backdrop behind us right now.
It's beautiful.
This was Sam's idea for this setup.
Look, look how sweet.
Yeah, people on YouTube can see this, but I've got my plant, my crystals, my I Me Mine, George Harrison. It's great.
Oh yeah, for the audios only. Let's set the scene. We have a nice mahogany table where the mic's clipped. In front of us, a stack of scholarly books. To the left, we have a nice array of crystals just to increase our aura and energetic vibrations. Sipping mint tea. Next to us, we have a beautiful sculpture coming out of it.
Grecian head.
Exactly. That's a planter. Guess what? Spoiler alert. There's plants. Behind us, we have Paris. What she said. Oui. So what I'm doing currently is I'm starting a podcast coming up. Gonna keep that on the D. No, we're gonna keep it on the D.
I'm not gonna say anything after that.
Dare you to shush. And so it's okay. Are you okay? Okay. So yeah, that's really exciting. I love that. Thank you.
Where to follow you on socials?
Oh yeah. Story of Sam Brooks. Instagram's all I got. So I'm old school, baby. Facebook. I'm just kidding. So yeah, the podcast is the real thing. It's taken up a lot. I have one script it's in the final revisions now. I have a short film doing festival circuits. We actually just won an award in London today. Found out the news. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. It's called For My Nephew. I wrote that.
Super cool and vibey.
I actually put that all together while I was in Miami, right before the ceremony. It was amazing. It came out great, and I'm very proud of that. And so I think right now, as far as acting, it's kind of just as the auditions come in, I continue to go. I've had some. You can see me on Fear Street Part 2, 1978. On Netflix, and StarGirl on the CW channel, Long Slow Exhale on Spectrum. Those are like my most recent. I got an indie film coming out later this year, maybe early next year. So keep an eye out if you're interested. Hopefully,
we're so interested.
Oh God, sweet. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this sweet, delicate conversation. Thank you for being vulnerable and inviting me on the show and holding great space, Lacey, as you always do. Thank you all for listening and being here.
Go follow him.
I love you all.
Engage with this awesome human.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, shoot me. Slide in the DMs.
Hey, that was your opportunity. He just invited you.
Yeah, give me a holler. Give me a holler.
All the world tossing